Hey guys, welcome back to more Karen neighbor stories. In this video, a stupid neighbor girl steals my car, unaware that I am a police officer. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one starts like this. Posting this about a year after it happened, partly as a cautionary tale and partly because entitled people need to be put on blast. So I, 45 male, am a patrol officer. I thought about moving up in the police force to take on some more responsibilities, but after spending a good deal of time thinking about it and talking it over with my wife, I decided it was a lot safer for me to just be on patrol. I worked out of my neighborhood and a few of the surrounding boroughs, so it was easy to tell if there was something off about someone's behavior or any construction that could cause traffic issues. Well, I'm not one to flaunt my job. I head into work in plain clothes and come home the same way, changing when I get to the station. The people in my neighborhood that see me in full uniform out in my patrol car might wave and then ask me when I'm off duty how the job is going. I don't show my badge to people unless I have to, which is uncommon when I'm off duty. In all the years I've been a cop, I just never was one to introduce myself to a neighbor and drop my job during an introduction unless asked about it. That means that as new people move into the neighborhood, they might not know what I do unless they ask. With that being said though, a little over a year ago, a family of 3 moved into the house across the street from me. It was a couple and their daughter. I went over, introduced myself to the couple and found out a little bit about them. The mother and father had moved from the next town over, so they were closer to their workplaces. The daughter, we will call her Brittany, I hope it's Brittany Karen, was gonna be taking courses at the local college in the coming months. I thought that meant she was fresh out of high school, but she was 20. I was not judging. I had taken 2 years off after my sophomore year of college and then went back to finish my degree. I tried to introduce myself to Brittany, but she brushed me off without a word. Her father apologized, but her mother pulled me aside before I left and told me that Brittany had not been doing well with the move. Since I lived across the street, she asked if I would keep an eye out if something didn't seem right, and I told her I would. I didn't bring up my job here, but in hindsight I probably should have. And oh, Brittany was a problem. The school year had not started yet, but it didn't seem like she had a job to go to. She did not have a car either, and I would see her waiting on the curb next to her house waiting for an Uber or a Lyft. When her parents were at work, she would have people over and I could hear the bass from the music from inside my house if I was not out on patrol. When I would get home from work, there were times I would see her being dropped off and stumbling back through the front door. Those nights, the lights in the house would be on and I would hear yelling as soon as the door opened. I figured she had been drinking, but I do give her credit for not trying to drive under the influence. Still, she was underage at the time. I didn't want to get too involved, but I did make sure the parents knew whenever there was a party. Her father was a bit more dismissive of her behavior, claiming that she is trying to make friends in a new place. Her mother was the one that would thank me and seemed to be the one to dish out consequences. More often than not, it was her voice I would hear whenever Brittany came home very late, yelling about the time and asking what her daughter was doing with her life. Brittany's attitude towards me didn't get any better either. She would always give me an eye roll if I waved to her, if I saw her on the curb. The one time she did speak to me, she called me an old man and that she never wants a boring life like mine. She had this smug look on her face when she said it and I had to stop myself from engaging her. I knew that someone like Brittany would just feed off of my annoyance and I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of getting me ruffled. I had promised myself not to get too involved and her behavior towards me just assured me that setting that boundary was a good thing for my peace of mind. Until the day Brittany stepped over that boundary. One morning before I headed off to work, I realized I'd left some paperwork in my office. I had started my car, so I just left the car keys in so it could warm up, taking the house keys with me to unlock the door so I could grab what I needed. I was inside for not even 5 minutes. I went back outside and was about to turn and lock the door when I realized my car was gone. I looked around trying to see if it was still on the street, but I couldn't see it. I went back in the house and called the station, letting them know I was not going to be in because someone had taken my car. I answered the standard report questions, feeling strange to be on the other side of a missing vehicle call. My coworker assured me they would start looking for it and if I needed anything, I could give them a call. As soon as I hung up the phone, it rang and I answered it. The caller was a friend that lived on the north side of my neighborhood and he'd been trying to call me for the last few minutes. He had seen someone driving my car that he didn't recognize and wanted to make sure I knew. I asked him to describe the person, and it was an identical description to Brittany. I hadn't seen her out on the curb that morning, so I figured she was inside her house or had already been picked up by an Uber. I thanked my friend and called up the station again, letting them know that my car was spotted heading north from my house. The officer who took my call let me know that they had dispatched a car already and would let me know if they found my vehicle. I got a knock on my door. About an hour later, standing outside was one of my colleagues and behind him was my car. He handed the keys back and asked if I would drive him back to the station where I would have to file my side of the report. On the drive there, he told me what happened. Thanks to the tip from my neighbor, the officers knew to start looking for Brittany to the north of my neighborhood. They were stopped by a few people that told them about a speeding car and the license plate matching mine. The officers made sure the witnesses filled out statements and then followed the complaints until they saw my car parked at a smoothie shop. The officers headed to the car to find Brittany sitting in the front seat sipping on a smoothie. The officers approached her and told her that the car she was in had been reported stolen. Brittany rolled her eyes and claimed that she was just borrowing it for a bit because I was thirsty. The cops asked her to step out of the vehicle, and she did, apparently not worried about what would happen once she did. The officers arrested her, and she apparently talked the entire time one of the officers read her rights, claiming she was too hot for jail. It was not until they got her in the cruiser that she started to look worried. When I got to the station, I filled out my report and asked what happened to Brittany. She had called her parents, but they did not come to get her. The officer who arrested her asked me about pressing charges, and I said to do so. I didn't see Brittany at all in the station while I finished my report and did a little work, but when I got back home, her parents immediately came out of the house. They apologized profusely, and Brittany's father said that whatever I decided to do was valid for them. They were not gonna ask me not to press charges. They figured that this would be the wake-up call that Brittany needed in order to understand that her behavior was wrong and she needed to clean up her act. I told them that I did press charges and that Brittany would be hearing from my lawyer about what the next steps would be. She was officially charged with motor vehicle theft and I let the system do its thing. I did not want to add on any other charges or draw the case out for longer than it needed to, just for my own peace of mind. The sight of Brittany in the courtroom, the smug look she had looking at me from across the street replaced with something scared and serious, was enough for me. She pleaded guilty, and since it was her first offense, the judge let her off without prison time or something, but she was fined heavily and had to participate in a diversion program, and her license was suspended. Her parents paid the fine, but Brittany had to get a job in order to pay them back. The diversion program had her doing community service on the weekends through an outreach program the court assigned her to. With working in community service, her days were packed and she didn't have much time for the usual parties or Uber rides she used to. When the school year started, it left even less time for her to get into trouble, something I'm sure her parents were grateful for. She still lives across the street from me and I think she's actually scared to talk to me now. Her parents still keep in touch in that neighborly way, but the situation has definitely created a bit of a divide. I hope the experience scared Brittany straight. Like, I know the parents might have had some part to play in her behavior, but it doesn't excuse the fact that she was going to get older and think that it's normal and appropriate to act like the world owed her anything and everything. And with that, I'm telling this story so that it'll be the last time I have to think about what happened. Hopefully, it can be a cautionary tale for someone out there who has a similar problem with their child. And the next one is a beautiful, satisfying revenge story that is titled, "She Tried to Plagiarize My Work and I Went Nuclear." And by the way, if you enjoy these revenge stories, please don't forget to like the video and leave me some star emojis in the comments if you want to show your support. Thanks a lot. So during my freshman year at university, I'd been working on a group project with 4 other people. We had completed an experiment as part of a physics module and each needed to write a report, approximately 2,500 words to be assessed. As the deadline for this module fell slap bang in the middle of a really active few weeks, I took the uncharacteristically organized decision to write and submit my report a few weeks early. Job done, free to party over varsity week. Well, one of my colleagues left everything until last minute and called me in a panic 2 days before the due date and asked if I could share my report with her so that she could understand how to structure the report and present the data. Me, being a bit dopey and probably still a bit intoxicated from a week of partying, sent her my report in its entirety. The following day, night before submission, she called me again and asked if I could proofread her report and make any minor adjustments I saw fit before she submitted. it. I agreed and she emailed the document over. Much to my horror, she had basically copy and pasted my entire report. I couldn't believe that she was moronic enough to send me the report to look at it, given that she had plagiarized the whole thing. This is where I became quite vengeful and petty. I first used the find and replace function on Word and replaced commonly used words from our experiment with vulgarities. I then replaced a step-by-step methodology from our experiment with a step-by-step recipe for spaghetti bolognese. The data table was replaced with the box scores from the NFL games that weekend, and I took the time to change the authors' names in her references to characters from Harry Potter. To top things off, I rewrote her conclusion as a confession that she had attempted to plagiarize the report. I sent the revised document to her and fully expected to receive an angry phone call in response. I did receive an angry phone call 3 weeks later when she was called in for a faculty meeting due to academic misconduct. Apparently, being the dingbat she had not even proofread the document I had sent her and had submitted it. So she had not just failed the module but was under threat of expulsion, as through trying to blame me for the content of the document, she had inadvertently admitted to attempted plagiarism. Upon returning to the faculty 5 years later as a research fellow, I discovered that the director of teaching had kept a copy of the report and routinely showed it to students as a warning not to plagiarize. And yeah guys, that story was absolutely amazing, but just watch out, the next one is almost just as good. It is titled "Blow a Minor Incident Out of Proportions? Don't mind if I do too." So I work as an engineer for a company that assigns me to various client projects. For one such assignment, I was added to a project that wouldn't start for a few weeks, so in the meantime, I stayed focused on other ongoing work. A few days before the project was due to begin, the eternal project lead sent me a zip file containing technical documentation, diagrams, requirements, and other materials relevant to the upcoming project. I skimmed through it briefly and then moved on with my day, nothing unusual. A couple of days later, I got an email from the external company's scheduling manager saying that a document had been sent to me which apparently contained some confidential company information, asking me to delete the email. That's it, no file name, no explanation, just a vague "please delete it." I shrugged, deleted the zip file and replied asking if they could resend it without the problematic part. Then I forgot all about it. That is until I got a call from the most condescending, passive-aggressive person I've ever dealt with. The scheduling manager from the client side. She went on a 30-minute tirade about how the precious previous project lead never should have sent me that document, how serious the situation was, and most memorably, how she could not trust that I'd actually deleted it. I quote, "I just cannot take your word for it. I'm not just gonna trust you because you say so." Right, so at that point I figured, I'm done with you. If you're gonna act like I've just been handed nuclear launch codes, then I'll treat it like I've just been handed nuclear launch codes. I said, "You're absolutely right. I'll contact our security operations team and report a formal security incident. They can coordinate with your SecOps team and together we can do a full scrub of all relevant mail servers to ensure the document is completely gone. It's really the only way to be certain." Suddenly her tone changed and she said, "Oh no, that won't be necessary. It's fine, I believe you." She practically stumbled over herself trying to shut it down. Because escalating this to both companies' SecOps teams would have turned it into a bureaucratic nightmare, incident reports, compliance reviews, and probably someone getting thrown under the bus. I politely reiterated that I really didn't mind escalating it if it would give her peace of mind. She very quickly decided that she had enough peace already. We ended the call and life moved on. If you act like I've compromised national security, don't be shocked when I offer to treat it like a national security incident. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. From what I can tell, there are two kinds of HOAs. Real ones that are very rare to find and actually want to help the community, and fake ones that just have people who want money or power running it and taking advantage of people. Far more common, sadly, and the ones I see most of these stories are about, including my own. So my grandparents, when they were in their 50s, retired and moved from a suburb into a larger, more rural area in Colorado. I remember when I was 9 and my mom died that my dad moved me and my sister up there to live there. I loved growing up there, especially in the winter when we have more snow to play in than we could know what to do with. I don't know if it was meant to be a permanent thing, but we never moved out. Until I went to college, but it was still basically my home. After some time, my grandparents died and my dad got sick a few years later. My sister had married a man and was living with him and 2 kids. The only person left to have the house was me, and I stayed there with my dad. I helped take care of him and keep the house in good condition. Then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked the land around us, started to turn into a development, and an HOA formed near us. We were outside their borders, so the only part that bothered me would be potential increase in noise pollution. But that just might be me being an old man in the body of a 40-year-old. Then the HOA president came knocking on our door. Me, hello? Woman, hi, I'm the HOA president of the HOA, and I just wanted to go to everybody and introduce myself. I know that you live a little further out, and I did not want you to feel excluded. Me, excluded? Woman, yes. Just know that we at the HOA won't let you feel neglected from being a little further away. Me, I think you're a little confused. My house is not part of the HOA. Her entire demeanor changed quickly. The nice lady turned into a crazy Karen like a switch flipped. Woman, that is very rude. You might not like to hear it, but you're a part of the HOA and I don't want to have issues with you breaking the rules. Me, what's your tone, lady? You cannot come here and start demanding that I join your HOA. I know the rights that I have. Woman, you don't have rights. You need to follow and do what we say. Me, I don't know where you got your legal degree, but here's a free lesson for you. Homesteaders set and established with owners before the development of an HOA are under no legal obligation to be part of this HOA. Woman, you have no proof of that. Me, I have deed papers. Go ahead and try to mess with me. Woman, you will change your mind about this, I promise you. If it's not obvious, I have a short fuse for anybody starting crap with me. My dad had the same fuse all his life too, so maybe it's genetic or I learned from him. I just know when a person is trouble and just shut it down. She left, but I guess she knew that I was right about the law because she wasn't trying to claim I was just magically part of the HOA anymore. She was just coming over daily and I never knew which version of her I was gonna get. The fake nice woman who tried to explain why joining an HOA would be good, or the nasty one that I know was responsible for a rock going through my window. I got cameras for the property, so if she tried to do any more vandalism, I would be able to catch her in the act. I wanted to collect proof of all of the harassment as well because I had a plan. I let it go on for about a month with her harassing me, and I also got her twice on camera trying to vandalize my property. Once with raw eggs and once with spray paint because I guess she only had the creativity of a 14-year-old. I filed a civil lawsuit against her for harassment and vandalism, wanting to get money out of her for everything that she did. But I also handed things over to the police and filed a report of the harassment. It was more serious because she was doing it on behalf of an HOA. I learned that it counts as predatory and coercive business practices. Akin to somebody who won't stop harassing you to buy something. For the civil case there was not much property damage, but I was able to get some money out of her. I did that part more to just prove a point that messing with me was a bad idea. As for the criminal case, she was getting in a lot more trouble than having to give me some money. She was being charged with what I said above, but also abuse of power, verbal assault due to her threats, and trespassing, because on the videos I tell her many times to not come back. It might sound small, but these were some serious charges. Anytime a person in a position of power abuses that right, it's a big deal. With the rest of the HOA denying involvement despite the fact that they all knew what she was doing, I did not have a huge role in the criminal case aside from just needing to show that my house was not part of the HOA area and that my ownership preceded the HOA being formed. Showing them trying to force me into it was actually a violation of my constitutional rights. I wish I was more central to the court case because I wanted to sit and see if she was gonna just freak out in court or something. I've read all these great stories of Karens freaking out in court and I don't know how these people were able to be there to see it. Maybe it's the area, but where I was, they were strict about who could come in and when. My guess was her hearing that she was going to jail did not make her happy. If I was her, I would have been a little shocked that it escalated all the way. The HOA was now in danger of just being shut down completely because who knew what they were doing / already done to other people that might not have wanted to join. They basically ended up in a situation with two choices: shut down the HOA fully, which they didn't do, or basically started over from scratch, with none of the original people being allowed to hold a position of power on the new one. I have no idea if the new one also had corrupt people in charge or if they were decent. All I knew was they left me alone. The court also ruled that I was outside of the boundaries for the HOA, so I could not be a part of it even if I wanted to be. Whoever was in charge also for sure heard what happened to the old HOA president and might have decided avoiding me was the best course of action. And before we end the video, let's read one last funny story from r/PettyRevenge. This one is titled, "He kept stealing my Hawaii mug, so I let him ruin his own reputation." So I live in Colorado, but had this souvenir mug from a trip to Hawaii, bright blue volcano design and clearly labeled with my name on the bottom. I kept it in the office kitchen. Mark, who apparently thinks personal property is optional, kept using it. I asked him to stop and he smirked and said, "It's just a mug." So I made it his. Over the weekend I smeared a thin layer of canned cat food under the rim and let it sit sealed in a bag. On Monday I left it out clean and dry. He took the bait. By mid-morning people were asking what the hell that smell was. Mark looked nauseous, someone said it smelled like a corpse microwaved in fish oil. He dumped the mug in the sink and left early. I didn't say a word, but I did start a quiet conversation later about how gross it is when people use each other's stuff. He's been drinking from paper cups ever since. People still avoid the break room when he's in it. The mug is back on my desk now and it still smells like victory. And yeah guys, thank you so much for watching. If you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my playlist on the left. Otherwise, I will see you again tomorrow.